We are back with another game from the 2025 Senior Championships at the beautiful St. Louis Chess Club. And this time we've got a game between Grandmaster Alexander Shabalov and Grandmaster Gregory Kaidanov. And E4 players, I would say, generally are looking for an aggressive attacking game. I mean, why play E4 best by test unless you're playing to get these aggressive games? But opponents can very often choose variations which can take the fire completely out of the position, and Shabalov goes for one of the more aggressive move orders against the French defense. But as we've seen in the opening surprises, Black can play h6 here and get a very reasonable game. But the more typical bishop e7 will lead to a fun variation with h4. But in this game, Kaidanov elected to play d takes e4, which takes quite a lot of attacking potential out of the position. This likely isn't going to be a castle queenside position, and we do have at least an imbalance to work with. That we've got the knights versus bishops, but with the typical French bishop, bad bishop problem, it's going to take some time for Black to get fully developed. So let's follow some opening principles here and make the most of our space advantage. So immediately we have a problem on d4, and I'm not interested in taking that bishop, as Black will be able to accelerate development. So let's develop and defend the pawn in the most effective way. Now c3. This is shoring up the d4 pawn even more so and preparing to play against one of the breaks that's going to take place here. The c5 break is seen in almost every French defense variation, so it is definitely coming up. And with that in mind, Black plays bishop e7, preparing the break. Queen c2. And this is a subtle move that could set up the potential to play rook d1 in one capacity or another to pin that d7 knight in some variations. So c5, grab, 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 and check. And if Black is following the typical French defense principles, they're looking to trade off the light square bishop here. But this was the subtlety of queen c2 earlier, as bishop d7 is strongly met by castle queenside. And this is essentially a winning position. So after bishop b5 check, king f8 is pretty much forced. And after castles, queen c7 to get rid of any tempo loss after rook d1. a6. And this is a critical move that's easy to miss, as bishops attacked are normal and typical responses. Bishops attack, move the bishop. This is one of the few improvements I found on White's play. I'd recommend queen d2, as queen d8 check is a big threat that needs to be reacted to. So say g6, well, we have queen h6, and only now bishop a4. And this rook on h8 being entombed, it's going to make finishing development a difficult task for Black, and White's got a stable plus from this. But in the main game after a6, bishop d3 was played, very natural, g6, and we need to start coming up with a plan for White. And this is a point of difficulty, because a lot of people look at a position like this and go, well, it's pretty equal, and we both have same number of pawns, minor pieces, but where are the imbalances? Well, Black has the bishop pair, we have the knight and bishop, so ideally what we're aiming for is good knight versus bad bishop, so trading a bishop off. But the pawn structure, we have a majority on the queen side with our 3 pawns versus the 2. So that's where we should be playing, and c4. The added bonus of c4 is when black is playing the natural follow-up to their previous move, king g7, we then have queen c3 check, followed by b4, getting a tempo off this bishop and working with our pawn majority, which is what we need to be doing. Now bishop e4, flexible move, bishop in the center of the board, opening up the d file. Everything's looking good here. And this is an opportunity that black missed to be able to fully equalize. The big issue in the position is the French bishop on c8. So playing e5 here is going to give the ability for that bishop to get out. It alleviates the pin on the f6 pawn, and it makes it to where the structure is more flexible to move forward. And say after c5, bishop e6, now black can pretty easily coordinate the pieces at this point. But in the main game, bishop d7 was played, and after rook fe1, a3 shoring up the structure, and there's no rush here. I like these subtle and technical moves like h3. I'm just getting a lift on the back rank. I'm waiting to see what black will do before making any sort of commitment. Bishop c8, a little bit more space with c5, trade a set. Now e5, and black's fixed problems here, so how can we get more? Well, bishop e6 is a natural move to want to play, so let's go bishop d5. Well, the bishop can't move right now due to the rook, so let's just simply defend the rook. Trade a bit. Now the knight's improved as it can go to c4, or in some cases e4, in order to help with our plan of playing with the majority, the 2 versus 1. So b6 looks like it's going to be 1 versus none pretty quickly here. Queen c4. Potential tactics takes. Now knight e4, and this is where you have to be pretty careful because there are some nasty ideas here. So if you're a pause your video type of person, try to find the best path for black. And keep in mind this is move 31. Likely the players in the game would get extra time at move 40, so we can always assume that time trouble is hitting around now. So give yourself about a minute to think and then unpause the video for the answer. So, what is best? The unnatural king h6. Whereas queen c1 check, we are looking to get full equality. But if white's not interested, you can play the way that black did in the game, or white can press on with knight takes c5 here, and after f5, it's balanced. In the main game after knight e4, queen d7 was played, and now it jumps to +1 as takes. Passed pawns must be pushed. Knight's organizing to get to the d5 square. And here is another key moment as the move played in the game goes from white's got a tiny edge to +8 completely winning, white to play and win. Black needs to keep control over entry point squares, which are f7 and g8. Queen f8, hitting the weak e pawn, so e4, check. And after bishop d6, we're blocking the path of the c pawn in the future, trying to get the queen out of there. And white's got something to work with here with the good coordination and the passer, but this is far better chances than in the game, as after queen d2, the machine jumps up to +8 and counting. White's completely winning. So if you're a pause your video type of person, see if you can figure out what best play is here. All right, gave you an opportunity to pause. Now let's keep it on going. Queen f7 check. We grab the bishop. Check. Check. Always like a repetition to get more time to think. We cross move 40, so it's plenty of time. And only now, h4. The pawn is a bit poisoned, so king f4. Now, you know it's winning. What's the best way to execute here? Well, in the main game, bishop d5 was played, cutting off key squares. g5. Let's pin the pawn. No more checks. Trying to run this way. We shut the door on the king running. And that's the last move of the game, as king g4 is met strongly by check and mate. And that'll do it for this beautiful game.